Yeah.
Hello, welcome back. It's Monday. No, it's Thursday. I don't know. I don't even know what day it is.
Monacelli.
Good day. It's the Geeky Gamer Podcast with hosts Ken and Bill. Thanks, all lowercase letters, Mr. Interrupt for all the music and whatnot, as well as Couchfire Media for the production and Tuarible production for everything else, whatever that is. This week we got guest Claudia Monacelli. Did I say that correct?
Monacelli.
What is wrong with me? I am
Monacelli.
I'm not doing great when it comes to like saying people's names lately. I just fail like every episode.
Where are your Italian skills?
Yeah, my Italian. I used to say that I was Cuban Italian, but that's wrong. I'm actually Cuban Irish.
I bet nobody believed you.
But anyway, Claudia is an author, therapist, a soul therapist, a psychic medium, and a reader. I feel like she's got a lot of positive energy, and with her craft, and she does quite a bit of podcasts as far as I can tell, has really got positive vibes and energy, and is interested in healing. I think a little bit of tarot, a little occult, a little alchemy, some mystical things, and maybe history as well. So I look forward to learning about all of those things.
I always, God, history was my worst subject. I couldn't stand it. But if you don't know what's back there, you can't go forward. That's what everybody told me. So, but I still always almost flunked history. But you got most of that right.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
There's different hats I have on, and I'm not sure where you want to go.
Well,
under what hat?
I got a whole like a whole bunch of stuff that I kind of want to dig into. I actually looked at that you've written some papers, and I'm always interested in some of that stuff because there's a lot of meaning in there. But before I want to set intentions before we start, and so there are two things. I want to set intentions, and if you're drinking anything, you got to tell us what you're drinking. So my intention for this episode is, for instance, or at least enhancing my tabletop role-playing game experience by understanding maybe the way that real life people use this kind of channeling and an experience that you're an expert in. And I am drinking bourbon.
I'm drinking red wine.
Oh, nice.
Sangiovese. And I see that Bill is not drinking anything. It's very pensive.
Coffee.
It is about noon in California time. So
yeah.
Oh, right. That's
right.
That's right.
I usually am drinking something, but
yeah.
Today I have to go bartend after this. So.
Well, so you have another skill.
Yeah, he's a talented actor and an amazing. I think one of his greatest qualities is he's a good storyteller and a very creative writer. So
my mother once said to me, "If you've got a story to tell, you will never be alone." Never.
So Ken, what is it that you have to ask about the tarot? This is news to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about tarot. I've had friends that were into tarot. I don't know a lot about the history. We could certainly Google that. But I kind of studied Aleister Crowley a little bit and read some of his books in the past. And apparently death doesn't mean what I think it means. It's got a whole. So if you could go into tell us a little bit about maybe
Okay.
the history.
Let me tell you
Go ahead.
how I got into them. I was a conference interpreter. That's my beginning. And I used to work for the State Department. And that's all I could say about that. But then I crossed the pond and I started teaching conference interpreting. And I worked in the university, and I was a tenured professor. I couldn't take it. And when I was at the height of my before I started saying, or sending everyone to hell, I invented a persona, an online persona by the name of Christelle Martinette. And she is the one who read tarot cards and she's still there, reads tarot cards and oracle cards. And I come from a generation, third generation of members of the occult, my dad, my mom. And the tarot I guess everyone has a different take on the tarot, and there are many countries that claim, tarot was started in Marseille. Tarot was started in Italy. It doesn't really matter where it started. But the interesting thing about the tarot is that there's 78 cards. There always are 78 cards. And they're pretty powerful. I mean, powerful in the sense of it's a game. And if you like, I said I'm not a gamer, but I am if I read tarot cards, right? And when you ask the same question in different ways and open a tarot spread, that means shuffle and then open the cards. When they tell you the exact same things, you know that something must be true of what they're trying to tell you, It's an interesting game, though. You can buy a tarot deck and every day pick out of, mix them up, pick a card and think about it and think about its meaning and all of that. It may not speak to you, but if you keep up with it and if you sleep with the cards, they get to know you. You get to know them. And sometimes they call you. Sometimes I'd leave the house and I couldn't leave because I knew I didn't take my cards with me. So I was in YouTube. I shot up in the span of a year up to 65,000 subscribers. And everyone wanted card reading, and I got tired of it. I get bored easily, and so I started, going into readings, medium readings, and that's a difficult thing, especially for a United States market. People in the United States don't like to talk about the dead. They don't believe in the dead. They don't.
So medium
difficult.
reading is it's like you're conversing with the dead. Is that a
well? You can. It's not really a conversation. It's a relaying. It's
okay.
Relaying message. You are a medium through which something comes,
Mm-hmm.
And people do it in very many different ways. I don't like to do trance readings where I'm under a trance because, of course, I do it in my YouTube channel. So
right.
I'd have to be, pretty much awake. And it's quite. Actually, my work as an interpreter helps me with that because I get the messages really easily. And I've never once had difficulty. People come to me to talk to their loved ones who have passed. That's, the basis of that. On my YouTube channel, I do often do sessions with people who had passed in recently or even in the less recent past. And it's difficult, though, to do that on live because there are too many different energies and people want to ask questions and they're personal questions. And so, but it's probably the best thing that I do. It's probably the thing that I do the best. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this is something that a lot of cultures have done for thousands of years, isn't it? Like Egyptians, Buddhists, Druids.
Right.
This is something that is in kind of our society and our culture that we.
Yes, but it's different in the United States. It's not, even though the United States is a multicultural place, still it's taboo for many people to address the idea of death and life after death, and the idea that you are speaking with someone who has passed. And so, I find that it's easier to work with people in Oriental countries because they have a more, life and death are together. I mean, it's just part of a cycle. Black and white come together, and life and death are just part of the same cycle.
Sure. Well, both Bill and I have lived in Asian countries. I lived in Thailand for about a year, and Bill was in China for several years. I think 5 years or something like that. So it's definitely interesting that it's a different culture. I mean, because the Egyptians were so had a lot to do with influencing the Greeks. And, the Greeks had a lot of influence on the Romans, and the Romans had a lot of influence on Europe, and Europe had a lot of influence on America. What makes Americans have such a big disconnect between where
I don't know.
And why would Asian culture have more of a connection to that?
It's a mystery to me. Recently, I go to the United States once a year. I'm in Italy now. I go once a year because I have relatives still there, friends from high school. Half of my life was spent there, and the other half in Italy. And I recently came across an old friend from high school, and I talked to her just like I'm talking to you, and I mentioned what kind of work that I had done and on YouTube what the channel is like, and all of a sudden there was silence. She was overcome with silence, and she looked at me and she said, "Well, do you do this for other people?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I do it for work. Sometimes I do it for friends." She said, because she was in awe. All of a sudden, I must have gone up the ladder of importance in her eyes. And I thought it was kind of humorous, because it's just natural that you have a relationship with people who have passed. Or spirits. We're full of spirits. I mean, there's spirits all around us.
Well,
some kind, some not so kind.
Here in America, there has been, quite a bit. Like what comes to mind is like Miss Cleo with those ads that would come on late at night in the 90s, and talking about psychic, and you could call her, and it was like a dollar amount that they would charge a minute. Or like John Edwards Edward had a TV show where he would get on there and he'd talk about in this massive audience, and he had a way. Like, I watched that show a number of times.
They're still around. They're not, not only in the 90s, they have grown so competitive now. They're all over the place, all over. I tell the story. Like I said, I started as a conference interpreter. All my life I interpreted. I still have difficulty with UK English. I'm sorry if I have to translate. So what I did a couple of years ago, I applied for a mom and pop organization of psychics, a phone line. So I got a Skype phone, a UK phone. And, they'd put me through, "Hello, this is blah, 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 blah. You're on the phone with Christelle." And it was so difficult for me. You can ask someone,
I can't.
Excuse me?
I can't imagine trying to read somebody over without seeing them or having that interaction with them.
Well, actually, it's probably even better than being in person.
Really?
Because you get a lot of the energy. People come to you with problems. A happy person doesn't come for a reading. That's my, I'm generalizing, but,
Sure.
and much of what they come with is very, very heavy energy,
Well, you're lucky
already
neither Bill or I are very happy.
But it's you have to really be careful, But there I was doing the readings that were just second nature, but I was trying to get through that language and I just couldn't understand what they were saying, And then after a while, if another person would say, "Why doesn't he call me? I don't know what to do." And that's it. That's enough.
Sure.
That's enough. I can't tell you why he doesn't call you. I don't know why he doesn't call you. I wouldn't call you either.
Oh no. That's why you're charging for the phone call. Yeah, that's what's important. Whereas Bill and I are probably more of the aesthetic of I might be overreaching here with Bill, but of Edgar Allan Poe, and he talked to the dead. I think he talked to the dead in his way, or at least described the dead with even his poem "Spirits of the Dead" or the Raven. People are haunted.
That's what we know of Edgar Allan Poe. He is close to that realm of activity, I think. Yeah. But I mean, let's go back a couple of years to COVID, all right, that period, that time, where it was there was so much fear and there was fear mongering. And then there were people who were dying, people who were ill, you couldn't see them, all that time, that 2-year period of really heavy things that were going on, it changed everything for us psychics, changed everything, because no longer could I say, "Oh, I gave Bill a reading, and after I hung up with him, I was destroyed. He sent me so many different heavy negative energy, But here, during the COVID period, things were coming from every place. They were bouncing off, just like in the movies, if you were trying, the police officers who are trying to listen in and the signal was bouncing off all different towers in the world. That's how it happened to us. It was difficult to target negative energy because you never knew where it was coming from. And that has subsided, but our work has become so much more difficult to cleanse. All right, not as a psychic medium. I'm talking here about healing people's energy, and because a lot of people. Well, let me just give you a few examples, okay? People come to me when they've tried everything else, all right? I don't know. They have broken their legs. They got into a car accident, a whole bunch of one after another, and doctors can't do anything for them because they don't see anything on CAT scans and things like that. They come to me and they say, I don't know what else to do. And there is where I go and check what's wrong with them. And the job that we do in that sense is very difficult because it's hard for me to understand where the hell did they get that? Why did it target their pancreas? Why did a hungry ghost come in and, get stuck to their lungs and stuff like that? So it's difficult. It's when you talk about research, it's a different kind of research. It's sort of looking at things that you don't actually see clearly, but you can feel. You can just turn me off, or else I'll go on and on and on and on.
No, I think it's interesting. I mean, I read some of your academic papers. I think it was Language, Emotion, Healing the Soul Therapy, Arts and Humanities. I thought it was interesting, the occult beliefs and media influence that I think is really what I'm actually that kind of fits a niche to where I'm interested in that. I mean, not only have I worked on a hypnotist TV show as a cinematographer many years ago for the TV Guide channel, they had this show called Seeing Stars, and I think it was Seeing Stars. I can't even remember it, but they had this hypnotist get on there and hypnotize people kind of in real time on the screen. And I think people, you know, if you think about it this way, Hollywood is obsessed with this sort of ideal of the occult and of powers and of the ability to influence or read the dead. I think there's every other TV show is of the dead.
You said that key word, powers, you know, and power with control, and they absolutely are obsessed. I mean, the political scene in the United States is obsessed with power, you know.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
And all of its forms, you know. And if you have an occult power, you know, I could say, look, Bill, you better watch it, because tonight you're going to have problems unless you blah, 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 you know?
Well, the thing is Bill, that's a funny moment that we're kind of stumbling into. On Mondays, Bill and I play this role-playing game called The Red Writ, and I play this character. I play this character that does journalism. He's and he's starting to get these powers and abilities. One of the situation that kind of popped up was he was trying to convince a group of people on how to follow him instead of the bad guys, and he starts summoning this power from within or from the world or whatever.
But how?
And
how? Using words?
Using words, using a little, maybe sleight of hand, maybe drugs, maybe a number of different things. But he was encouraged to make this sanity roll. There's sanity is part of what it was, and I think the sanity roll was to see if he embraced ethics or if he embraced the exploitation of power, and where that split of where the character would go in order to proceed.
Black witches and white witches.
You're right. Are you a good witch or a bad witch?
There's no place like home, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so that was a really interesting, because it weighed in on what his purpose was.
But sometimes, most of the times, I feel that people don't understand the power they have, and they do really. Everyone does have an extremely strong power. With your, like you said, you used the word a few times, intention. Set our intentions, and that's all you have to do. And mean what you say, But people don't realize that they have that power, and it's quite difficult to instill that power in a person or to explain that power to a person as well. You can do whatever you want if you put your mind to it, that expression. And yes and no, you can and you can't. I was talking to a colleague the other night, another witch, okay? And we were comparing notes as to our healing properties and how it worked in the recent past. And I was telling her, it does usually work, but if I have someone who comes to me who's ridden who's in a wheelchair, who is about to die, there's very little that I can do except help the pain, go away. But I can't restore the muscles and the capacity for them to stand, that kind of thing. And a person came to me when they had lived, the guy was 37 years old, and he had been, I don't even like to talk about it, but, and I won't go there, but he was the object of desire of clergy in a certain country. And he grew up with a lot of boys who were taken advantage of and all of that. And then at one point when he became of age, he started contacting politicians so they could help him get away, but then found out that even the politicians were corrupted. Oh, it goes on and on and on. And the guy couldn't even get any health benefits because of the powers that be that allow, it goes on and on and on. And you wonder, well, what did that guy do wrong? What did he actually do wrong? I mean, did he come into this world with a soul contract to live in that kind of environment? And I don't know, sometimes I'm baffled with things that occur, and not because I can't take care of it or I can't, just push, throw my wand around, but sometimes I'm baffled at the kind of condition people come to the world in, and the mindset that they have that allows them or doesn't allow them to do anything. Here, for example, the women especially who are under the thumb of a powerful man and who are abused and things like that. And it's difficult. And I know I'm getting into negative things, is even talking about it, but it's quite difficult. And another thing I have to say is it's never a matter of economics. I can't say that the poor are in the shit. I can't say that, because there are highly wealthy people who are they just destroy themselves. And again, you could turn me off. Just just push
it's interesting. I think I'm following you. Basically, politics, religion, prophecy, like ethos, when you gain power, when you gain, exploit people, there's a lot of negative that you get internally. And what that I think that's part of the reason why I told that story earlier is we are faced often with, should we go negative or positive, and doing our.
Still, you see,
It's the difference between being Martin Luther King and and the Manson family,
but you have in the game that you play on Monday or Mondays, you have the facade of a game, and that's what makes it so interesting for gamers. I could imagine, but what is why don't some of the politicians go play games?
Well, that's part of the reason why we do that. To me, I think a lot of what we do in these games, and I can bring this back to the what is it called, intention that I wanted to set for what we talked about, is for personal experience and my ability to take situations, and I think this is kind of what you're saying, and be able to talk them through a little bit, to understand, where to be and how to act and how to communicate better, or how to deal with these emotions or struggles that I have internally, or that any of us have internally, and work through them. And I think as a medium, that is probably a good amount of where your base intent is. Is that not correct?
Well, yes and no. Now, for example, why should I do that? Why should I be a medium? I mean, who am I to give the voice of whoever, the grandfather or the boyfriend, the husband or the son, the dog sometimes. And I think to myself, the person who wants to hear that
Oh no. I
Why are you laughing?
Oh, you froze. You froze.
You
Yeah,
froze.
like it chopped. It chopped up.
You
We didn't hear
froze.
what you said.
The last thing we heard was the person who wants to hear that, and then you froze.
And we didn't hear who it was.
Because what the person who wants to hear that wants some kind of closure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want some kind of closure, and so I'm not sure if it's a matter of because when I hear you both talking, I hear you speaking as people who are curious and want to learn and want to develop in some way, want to grow in some way. Let me see how far I could grow if I get my hands dirty here. What about if I get my hands dirty there? Or what will happen if I take the side road, you know, the black and white, you know, go to hell is paved with good intentions kind of road. But I really enjoy walking on the wild side. And I don't really I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not afraid of the consequences because you get consequences. Come on. I mean, you guys get your bad days. You know, you wake up, you have a car accident, you have just one after another. You know, you've done something wrong, you know. But I applaud you in the sense of going and getting this experience through gaming. And I didn't even imagine that the gaming world could even afford that for a person, could even give that to a person, that emotional experience. You know, I didn't expect gaming to give someone such an emotional experience.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I feel like I should let Bill chat because I've been.
You've been talking. You've been hogging the microphone.
Bill is the gaming expert, so I mean, I feel like.
Well, come on, Bill, raise that voice.
I mean, it's interesting stuff, but it sounds like we're sort of running the gamut on a lot of mysticism topics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how it pertains to witchcraft, which, you know, is something that some people believe in and others don't. When you get into gaming, by and large, I think that most people know that gaming is just fiction. As in it's like watching a movie. You can learn a lot from it. It can have a therapy to it, but it's not actually, you know, summoning the devil or, you know, that was the thing in the 80s with D&D, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we have a pretty wide range going on. And sort of a trope with gamers is that they only bring to the table what they can. And a lot of times they don't know what they're talking about. Ken had a really, he was quoting a scientific study, and he'll have to come back and actually, I'm sure he's sitting there like refilling his bourbon like, no, I'm not at the mic. I think it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Does that sound familiar?
It doesn't ring a bell to me.
Yeah, and I'll let Ken explain.
The Dunning-Kruger effect, which is the Dunning-Kruger effect is like basically, I don't think that really connects to this idea. It's sort of like you can.
The idea.
The idea of the Dunning-Kruger effect is you have an idea, and you will, like, if you don't know much about a subject, you're gonna start making up your own stuff, and it's just it's all fabrication, and then people start believing the fabrication.
Right. How it pertains to what I'm saying is the trope with gaming is you'll get into a situation, okay? So you're role playing, and it'll be like, we're on a plane, and I'm gonna jump out of the plane and jump on the wing and jump on the fuselage and fight.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, that doesn't work with physics. That doesn't make any sense. And so then it will deviate from the story and like a Tom Cruise movie style cinematic instead to talking about shit we don't know. And, there's always someone, usually a bro, right? Who's like, no. Actually, terminal velocity is blah, 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 blah. And they don't fucking know what they're talking about. And they're like Googling shit and acting like they know. And they don't fucking know. That's what I'm talking about.
The Dunning-Kruger effect, it makes a big difference in politics, where when people are triggered, the lie travels faster than the truth. That's what makes, things that seem great. Yeah. Are they actually great? Are they good, or are they evil? And like, how do you tell?
Oh, now you really have opened my eyes to the election results in the United States. Now I understand perfectly. It's a mystery.
He can't help himself. He can't help himself.
You can't. I mean, but you said Dunning-Kruger. I mean, and that's where it went. I was trying to stay like Edgar Cayce, like or Gandhi or Sigmund Freud.
Politics. You literally said like politics.
Let me ask you both. Bill keeps freezing. Have you ever had a reading, either of you?
I throw the runes. I throw the Norse runes.
Oh, cast runes. I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting thing.
Yeah. But I don't do it in so much as a true understanding of it. I have a book, and I consider it something that it's a very good book. But I consider it. So I have to find it for you. Continue with what you were saying. I'll find.
Well, you're talking runes, and I don't know anything about runes other than the Google search that I made earlier. Something about predicting the future, or protecting a person against misfortune, or adding qualities to an object, giving it some kind of
curse
or spell or something.
They're stronger. I believe that runes are stronger than tarot. Absolutely. I mean, if I have a question and I ask the question and I throw, open a tarot spread and then I cast the runes will just come down like an axe and give you the answer, where the tarot gives you a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. The runes are very powerful. They're really strong, powerful things. If you have time, you should play with them, cast them and try to figure out what they're trying to tell you. Not easy at all. Not easy stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to start.
It's called the Book of Runes.
The Book of Runes.
Yeah.
Do you know the author?
Yeah, it's Bloom, or Ralph Bloom.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty basic. That's pretty basic. Yeah. I have another book. I mean, there's another book that I always suggest, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll get that to you in the future. I might be having to leave you guys, and I hate to do that because this conversation is so interesting. Is there anything else that my wonderful soul can give you as a closing statement?
Sure. I think it would be interesting to know, what is next? Like, as we evolve as mediums, as we evolve as getting to understand that, are we going to get telekinesis? Are we going to get ability to predict the future? We talked about superpowers, healing. What's next?
Well, I just got a trailer and I put it at the beach, and that's next for me.
Nice.
I'll be writing about interpreters who started out interpreting language and then they became psychic, and they're saving the world. Some of them are becoming spies. What's next? I think there's a lot of I don't know. I still have. I don't think in this lifetime I'll be able to go through a wall. I don't think I can do that. I haven't even been practicing. But I think that in the future, if you probably are able to concentrate, people may be able to think they're going through walls. I have been able to move things with my thoughts, and that's scary. It's kind of funny, actually. But if if you have a very good tape recorder, recording device, digital, with a long, many hours available, go to sleep in one room, leave the recorder out, and in the morning, go listen to what you find. You will be so surprised. If you're living in a fairly quiet place, you'll hear the sounds of spirits moving around and wishing and shooing and things like that. There's so many. The sky really is the limit, because we can't communicate. I mean, communication is so difficult. It really is so difficult. The only thing, all right, I guess what we talk about next is love when we talk about spirituality. So what happens when two people fall in love? Do they communicate with words? No, never works. And then they have this other language, the spiritual language. I think that's where the interesting things occur. For me, the idea of telekinesis, okay, I mean, that's not even interesting unless there are people with emotions that are working, because we're here. My take, I'll tell you what my take is. My take is we are souls with meat suits around them, and we're here to experience emotions. That's it. That's it, good and bad. And so if within that, purview they become magicians or truck drivers or gamers or psychics, it doesn't matter. The real part is the emotions, things that they have and they experience, that was I don't know, was that suffice? Was it quite for you?
It's definitely, there's a spectrum. I find it interesting. If there are any, if there's anybody that we should check out, please give us like any mediums that we should.
I'll give you a ring. I'll write to you. Thank you so much for having me
absolutely.
On your show.
For sure.
Sorry I can't stay any longer, but it was such a pleasure to talk to you both.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely enjoyed a meeting and talking to you, and look forward to.
And if you ever come to Italy, let me know.
Look, I plan on going to Italy. My dad goes all the time, but I think it would be. I don't know. He's all over the place. He's an architect. He's a historical architect, and
well, he probably comes to Tuscany. Yeah.
Definitely. Tuscany sounds like a really great place to get a salad.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Yeah. You have a nice show. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Have a good. I did have one question for you, Bill, before we wrap up. And this is something I kind of wanted to go deeper into. Why are tabletop role-playing games? Why are they so religious?
What do you mean religious?
Yeah, why there's always seems to be like a religion or like, a devout or even in your book, the Dreadlord book, there's devout and nature.
Well, so I'll start with in Dreadlord, in the world that is the setting that's presented. It's the setting of Craster and the realms of Craster and all that stuff. So realms being different dimensions, actually outside of Craster. there is a pantheon of what could be called gods, but they're little g gods. They're known as the powers, so the greater and lesser powers, beings of power. And that is a trope in fantasy. In Dungeons and Dragons, in the Planescape setting, gods are called powers as well. And they're just very powerful beings. So they might have the power to create of themselves, but they don't have the power to literally create. If you even go into Lord of the Rings, I was going to say LOTOR,
Yeah.
the different Vala can create, and that's where dwarves came from, for example, and elves and humans, etc. The Vala can create; they are veritable gods, but they are not big G god. Every Iluvatar is big G god.
Yeah, Iluvatar.
So there's this idea of, well, are the Vala gods? No, they're more godlike than Sauron. Is Sauron a god? No, he's more godlike than a human.
Right.
So the idea is,
but
humans tend to venerate things, to attempt to make sense of things, and we want an order. When I was creating Dreadlore, and this is getting to answer your question, I'm just starting with Dreadlore.
Mm-hmm.
When I was creating Dreadlore, and me and the co-creator at the time, his name shall never be mentioned again, we talked a whole lot, in fact, argued a whole lot about this idea. He really wanted a history of the beginning. What was the real, there's all these myths. What is the real thing that happened in the beginning that the powers that be came to Craster, forged it? How did we actually get to where we are? And I really put my foot down, and then when he and I split up and I took Dreadlore and actually made it, this was the history. No one knows. In fact, the quote-unquote gods don't even quite remember. It's been too long. It was outside of time. Each one has their own overture window of what actually happened. And the only person that really can remember to a degree is the incarnate of death, because she keeps the history. But even she, the cowl, will admit this is just a perspective. So, to answer your question, because people need to know, okay, well, what is the truth? And thereby you get religion. It's very easy in a science fiction story to throw in aliens, ancient aliens that they were there way before. And so when you go out into the expanse, you find these ruins, and there was a beginning. But then you can only go so far before it's like, in the beginning it was just chaos gods. Because humans are constantly wondering why, what's the answer? That's why. And that's one of the most compelling things about gaming is there's religion in more lifelike stories because it's a natural progression. We want to understand the world.
So, to go a little deeper in that, and this is something I kind of wanted to ask before, but we just didn't. We ran out of time. I wonder what God has to do, or gods, big G, little g, whatever, with mediums, and like if there is a deity in place for that, or if it is a individual.
It depends on the canon. So in my buddy Jeff's game, each of the various gods, as you could call them, have they can touch their followers, and sometimes because it's a post-apocalyptic world that he's got going on. Mm-hmm. It's called Levied Souls, and in the dark days, the really dark days, you'll have priests and oracles and they think that they're being given knowledge from their deity, but actually it's a demon that's usurped that position. So there's the question of who's really talking to you, you know? And I mean, this is in not all religions, but in many religions, if you have a god that is, or gods that actually deal with humans, actually commune with humans, that's a common idea. I mean, if this is going to piss a lot of people off, but that's what we do. I mean, Judaism, Zoroastrianism to Judaism, there's a leap, but it's there. To Christianity, what is Christianity? It's a cult based on Judaism. The Jews don't think that the Messiah came, that it was fulfilled. What is Islam? Well, sure. Islam is Christianity. It's Muhammad saying, hey, look, you guys have lost your way. Yeah. Jesus was a prophet, and you guys have lost your way. Boom, you get all the way down to Latter-day Saints. What are they saying? You guys have lost your way.
Yeah, so, what's the difference between Latter-day Saints and the People's Temple, or, you know, Scientology?
It's people saying, hey, you guys have lost your way, or you may not accept it, but God spoke over here. And then the people that they're saying lost their way are like, you guys are a cult and are demons. You're worshiping demons. Or you're worshiping a golden calf or whatever. I mean, it's a very common, you know, idea. You add it to the supernatural and metaphysics, you're talking about religion. You talk about popular thought, you're talking about politics. Yeah. You know, people are just as religious about veganism as they are.
Oh, sure. You know, but veganism is a you know, you can actually look at scientific studies and you know, have good information about why veganism might be the answer of the salvation of all of us, versus you know, a methane-based diet, which is what we're on now. But you know, people like eating a big steak. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, like, people are religious, and so you have a good question. Why are these games always? Why do they have so much to do with religion and the devout? One of the ideas in Dreadlore is it is actually a very secular game, because it's saying, and if you read what Cedric Kidder is saying, he's saying, look, people believe all sorts of things. That doesn't mean they're right. Just because you're a zealot doesn't make you right. Just because you're willing to jump off the cliff doesn't make you right. You're ready to go into the streets and wave a flag and burn down buildings. That does not make you right.
Sure. And what did you think about the comment? I really tried to have a specific you know, idea that related to our game with Nord and that moment with the sanity roll where he was trying to start a cult. What, I mean, do you think I was pretty accurate with the way I described it? You know, a sanity roll of whether or not you embrace your kind of core ethic or exploit the power. I mean, what road would he have gone down if for instance?
That's a good question. So there's two things going on there.
Yeah.
The first thing is the fiction that we were telling.
Sure.
Which is, within the fiction, what is Nord doing? He makes the sanity roll, and there are stakes involved. So if he fails, what happens in the story to him? If he succeeds, if he goes to limbo, what happens? So that's the first idea. It's all in the fiction, all in the game. The second idea is the mechanic of a sanity roll, which is really important. And to sound a little conceited, I talk on a little bit higher level when I talk about mechanics like that, because you have to be getting into game system theory. It's not talking about the fiction anymore when you're talking about mechanics. It's talking about how the game system emphasizes things with mechanics. So, for example, in Vampire the Masquerade, which is something that a lot of people know, if you've seen the movie Underworld, they got sued because they basically stole Vampire the Masquerade. In Vampire the Masquerade, when you play as a vampire or as someone who's going to become a vampire or whatever, one of the core mechanics is called humanity. And in fact, in all of the Onyx Path games or White Wolf games, there's this sort of table. It's not hit points, but it's something like it. It's hit points essentially for your soul. For vampires, it's humanity. And the idea is, as you go down the depraved path of becoming a monster, as you're immortal and you start killing people and becoming more depraved, you lose your humanity. And if it gets to 0, you give in completely to being a vampire. And you are no longer human. You are a monster. Irrevocably, you're done, and your character's gone. You become a non-player character, an NPC.
Right, you become like energy of
you have the struggle.
Yeah, of because the idea of him,
it's a mechanic. So someone might say, well, wait a minute, I'm a vampire. I suck people's blood. Why should I lose humanity for that? Because I'm not killing them. And the storyteller has to tell them, hey, look, it's not that you're being punished. It's that this game has a mechanic that is literally founded. The root of the struggle, regardless of what your character is doing.
Yeah.
The root of this game is your struggle with being human and being a monster. Now, in Dreadlore, sanity rolls and derangements are literally that. If you lose too much sanity and gain derangements too much, your character's gone, out of your control. Effectively, you lose.
It's kind of like when OBS fucks up and I want to break my computer.
Yes. Sanity specifically is this idea of, look, your character is having to make a decision or rationalize the world they don't understand, they didn't understand, a dynamic shift. And if you lose too much sanity and you gain too much derangements, it's not that you die, it's not that you're necessarily a bad person, it's that your character has gone that way where you're off the reservation.
Yeah.
That's a mechanic in Dreadlore. And depending on the setting you have, that can mean different things. In Into Space, Nord would not, or Dolby would not have made a sanity roll for the same thing.
Yeah.
Because Dolby, his mindset and the fiction that he lives in, manipulating people is what he does. That's actually something he should be doing.
Right.
Right? But for Nord, it's a kind of domination.
Sure.
Like, Nord is aware that these people, as shitty as they are, he's leading them to their doom.
Right.
And he's got to internalize that and say, okay, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's why the sanity roll.
Well, and I think there's another, and I think that's a really great example. Nord is a journalist, and journalism, it's sort of a check to against what the powers that be. If there's an exploitation, it's supposed to expose that. Where Noid and I think there was a brilliant absolute sanity roll. I thought that was like perfect on your part to call that. Yeah, just barely, I'm sure.
But that's the thing.
But that's I don't know if I really passed it. I think in some way, if anything, it was like he didn't get bothered by it then. He passed it mentally because the time and place, there's a bomb in the kitchen. You got to fucking take care of that first.
The soul doesn't take a hit.
Yeah.
That's the difference. The mechanic says,
but
when you pull that nail out, does it affect the structure? And for that moment, no. But it does mar him.
Right.
It's in the fiction.
It goes against what his general principles are, which is to educate and inform, not dictate and control. I think there's a big difference between those two. Whereas Dolby is like dictate and control, Nord is educate and inform. And I think that, those two.
Well,
and
you're dealing with a very human idea there, which is, let's say someone goes off to war, not that either one of us have been to war, but we've heard many stories of it.
We certainly lived 20 years of war.
But not directly.
Not personally, not directly, but we, we know people who've served and we know what the cost of war is for sure.
At what point does a person, you're in war, you have to kill, you rationalize it, at what point does it break you? And if we're going to bring it into mechanics of a game system, the point that it affects you, that's just role play in the story. The point that it starts to break down the character, that's when they're failing the role.
Right.
That's how the game system is showing that.
And at that point in time, Ken, I was thinking, am I going to start a cult? Like how terrible would that be? Like if he started a cult, like he would go from being maybe a hero to being a villain. A villain for sure, because he would start.
He would go from being likely one of the bad guys you guys have been fighting.
Yeah.
Sorry, going from being what he is to one of the bad guys.
Right.
As in, Loretta Levon she wasn't just pooped out into the world as a bad guy.
Yeah.
She became depraved. She started messing with runes and alchemy and seeing power and finding these situations and having to navigate these things and this understanding. She's in a lot of ways just Nord in like 5 years.
Yeah. And that's
assuming Nord makes certain decisions, he becomes the new Loretta Levon. Like, that's exactly the point.
Yeah. And I think that
book and you go nuts.
A wonderfully paid part of the reason I really wanted to kind of go into a little bit more depth with Claudia is that I wanted to know how a good medium would perform stuff like that, because there is a lot, you could go really dark as a medium, or you could embrace certain things for evil, but I just wanted to know some of the ways that they channel, and I think it's difficult when you're on the internet and figuring that stuff out.
There's a big difference between the fiction and the real life. That being, in the fiction, as a player, that what your character is experiencing is real, and you also know it's a game. You can get into it, you can get immersed in it, but that there's a pause button, that the stakes don't actually affect real life. As in, Nord is not Ken. If Nord makes a cult, Ken's not making a cult.
Sure.
Right? So, in real life, again, people, how I roll. I'm a very secular person. I can be spiritual, but I'm not religious.
Sure.
So when someone's like Claudia is like, I'm a things, I can move shit with my mind. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I don't believe her.
Right.
Right? In fact, I would say it's malarkey, because I'm a skeptic and I was in a cult and I know what that looks like.
Right.
People say a lot of shit.
Right.
Now, I respect her and I respect what she's doing. At the same time, you know, okay, you can move shit with your mind. Well, I can turn into a dragon.
Right.
So are we going to affirm each other, or are we going to just accept that we believe different shit?
But you have to think about intent as well. I think her intent is to help people on an individual basis, and isn't to lead groups of people. You know, she probably goes out of her way to, you know, listen to people, and you know, with a lot of alternative medication and alternative ways of being. It could be psychosomatic, but whatever it is to take you from being super depressed or unhappy to making your worldview better and feel better, you know, to get you off of you know, but I don't think she's not like gathering a cult following, you know, it's help on. Whereas what we're doing, I think, is we want a cult following that you know, reads the book and they play the game and they buy the book and they buy the swag. You do all the things with you know, where we fail in business.
I would argue, I'll drop a little balls on this conversation. Sure. I would argue that most mediums are also trying to do that with their books and their seminars.
Yeah, they're trying to. She's trying to make a little
pro bono. Okay.
Yeah, but you know, Sigmund Freud or, you know, psychologists or whatever, they charge like $170 an hour to listen to you complain about your life and then get back to you. I mean, why not add some mysticism in there? And who's to say that? And this is where we get really fucking hooey. Who's to say that the university PhD degree is all that much more meaningful than somebody who has really great intuition?
So I agree with you, except there is the caveat, or there is the nasty element of proof. So, for example, if you're talking about a hard science especially, someone can demonstrate to you that likely what they're saying is true. In a soft science, they can start to demonstrate through studies. They are guessing, but they can start to demonstrate, hey, look, when we do this stuff, when you take Tylenol, your head doesn't hurt anymore. We might not understand it. I can't tell you exactly why, but I know it works. Now, when you get into homeopathic medicine, the issue is there's just not a lot of studies about it. And there's a lot of hooey about it. So people are like, oh, if you take mugwort, then such and such and such, and do a fire spell with it. It's like, well, that may work.
A lot of
why not take it a little further and say, is the fire spell and the intent really what's needed? Or do you just like being spiritual? And the answer is, they like being witches.
Right.
It's cool to be a witch. It's cool. I fucking smudge shit all the time. Yesterday, I smudged the shit out of my room, okay?
I got
some
sage.
Stuff too.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I was actually using Palo Santo. And I opened
don't even know what that is.
It doesn't matter. I was doing the whole thing. I had like a fucking candle with intent, and I got a bear claw that's a talisman. Motherfucker, I do all that shit. What I'm trying to say is, just understand, if you claim that you're talking to the dead, you're probably full of shit.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not saying it doesn't help.
But I wanted to.
But there's zero proof of this.
I did want to go into that because, you know, there are a lot of soothsayers in our life. Like, what was that? The big one, the Catastrophus or Catawampus, Cenefarius.
David Koresh?
No, it wasn't David Koresh. It was like. It's not Catawampus.
You know, what I'm trying to say is this, man. Like, people do whatever they want, but people that are telekinesis people, people that claim wizardry, it's never proven. It's never proven. People that heal, it's never proven. I'm not trying to say that it doesn't happen, but I'm saying that for someone to be like, wow, the spirits are off today, so I can't tell you the thing that I should be able to tell you. Or, oh, there's some bad mojo, so I can't learn shit.
Mm-hmm.
They're full of shit.
Right.
Like in any other situation, people would be like let's say you go to the mechanic, your car's fucked up, and they're like, oh yeah, well, the thing is today, because the moon isn't in alignment, I can't look under your... You're going to go to a different fucking mechanic because when push comes to shove, your car doesn't work or it does.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Now, I'm not saying the universe, we understand the universe. What I'm trying to say is there is a line between bullshit and not bullshit. And I like spirituality, and I smudge shit, and I believe in intention and mind over matter. And I believe that there's a spiritual realm and we have spiritual whatever, but I believe it. I don't know it.
Right. Like Nostradamus is what I was trying to... I was like, no,
I don't
Nostradamus. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're like, no, it's real. It's like, okay, well, why do you believe it? Why do you know it? Oh, no, I can do this shit on my own. You're lying.
Yeah. But
You're
I mean,
lying.
I think, you know, there are a lot of questions that you can ask, you know, like what, how are you inferring? Is it like whatever it is, to believe whatever you hear? I mean, and I think that, you know, we embody this stuff in role-playing games. You know, I'm pretty sure that Nord listens to the ground to empathize with the ground to see what is happening. And so it's like maybe it is that skill set that they're dialing into as a medium. They are listening to the silence between the words. It's not a superpower. It's just really, really good empathy.
Fair enough. I mean, the cat, which is behind you right now.
Yeah.
That gato. Meow. Hi, cat. You know, that is an entity. That is a being just like you who is coexisting.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we have this mentality as humans. We're better than them. That 100
Nobody's better than
cats
you
could
now.
die. And no one's going to prison for it. And yet that is a life. That is a life form that thinks that I will look at my cat and see, or the dog, and see it get frustrated. And I'm like, holy shit, I know what that's like. We share a whole lot.
Yeah, Juno's very frustrated because she's walking around the room. Like she's communicating with me something. I'm not sure what it is, but she's definitely like, we're having a conversation. Like,
and so, and we being conscious of things and the cat being conscious of things. And then let's say you go up to a big fucking tree and you wonder and you try to commune with this life form. It is a life form. If we were on an alien planet, you'd be like, and it was Star Trek, you'd be like, wait, is the tree aware of me? And it's a possibility. Like, who the fuck knows? All of that is awesome. I'm totally about that shit. I'm all about it. Keeping the mind open.
Right.
But there is a fine line between I am communing with this tree and being like, hey, so Ken, the trees told me, and now I'm going to make decisions based off of it. There's a fine line. Because I can make that decision, but so long as I keep in my mind, I could be wrong.
Right.
But if I'm going full on belief, I can walk on water and blah, blah, blah. You have people that truly believe they can go Super Saiyan.
Right.
And they're like, oh, if you believe it. No, that's not true. It's not true.
What if you take Theurgy into it a little bit more, where we you know, it's a science that we don't fully understand. We don't use our full amount of brain power. We don't have all the tools in place yet. But if we keep pushing towards that, you know, our like for instance, what I can do with my phone is I can see my house
Sure.
when I'm not there.
Yeah.
So I know what's going on. You know, it's technology. It's in the
I'm
phone
open to
now,
it.
but you know, Musk
open
gets
to
a
it.
hold of my brain and he puts a chip in there, and I see that shit.
I'm open to it. I'm open to it. There's we've talked about this before. There's an Isaac Asimov short stories, I, Robot, right? Which we talked about. There's one which was his favorite short story.
Mm-hmm.
He apparently sat down and just wrote the whole thing, like in one sitting. It's called The Last Question.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually go to YouTube and hear him literally in his like New Yorkish, he's like, the last question. Like, go for it. And it's an amazing short story. And it has a lot to do with that idea of experience and all of these, well, questions. I'm open to all of that. But there's a point that should not be argued, which is, right, all that's cool, but what do we know? Because the thing is that we don't progress until we start proving shit.
Sure. No, I'm with you. You know, science is great.
You got to prove shit.
Science is the difference between, you know, living and dying a lot of the time. You don't get that MRI, you don't see the thing in there, that's it. You know, you're done.
You know, and someone could say, oh, well, I bathed them in the... Maybe it actually cured them. You know what? Right on. But investigate it, ruminate on it, be willing to be wrong.
Sure. Well, I think that it's... If you did science on like mud baths and from some certain area that has whatever, there could be a chemical reaction to your skin that might help suck the cancer out. But 100%. until you study that, or maybe it's a mindset. Maybe it's a mindset thing, like where if you focused on eliminating the negative vibes, they say stress is like a killer.
Here's the thing. We don't understand life, right? We know pregnancy happens. We know people get birthed.
Sure.
We know that assuming all the things went well, they will become a human that thinks.
Well, as long as they're not born in California or New York, because they kill the children after the birth.
So the idea being, we know that happens. We've tried to recreate it. We wonder if we should recreate it.
Sure.
Does that, because we don't quite understand it, but does that mean we stop doing it? No. So go do the mud bath, do the smudge, do the incantations, do the seances. If it works for you, do it. There's a difference, though, of saying, I know the truth.
Right. Because you don't know. You don't know. There's no fucking way. You don't know. There's no proof.
Really believe. I've been there, baby. I know how that works.
There's belief, and belief is bullshit. So, I mean, you don't know. But I think there is a power to positive thinking, and I think that there is a placebo effect. And I think that positive thinking and placebos can be helpful.
To it.
Sure.
Maybe it's God. Maybe it's the spaghetti monster. Who the fuck knows?
You're getting the cancer treatment. You're getting the radiation or whatever it is, and you have a negative outlook. Oh, I'm not going to make it. Versus the positive, I'm going to make it. You know, that's the difference between life and death. And whatever it is you can do to get some kind of restitution for your soul, I feel like that's helpful. I
agree. Positive thinking, believing in yourself, moving forward, and I am all about that. Just weigh it with a little balance, of being open to the idea that maybe you're wrong, or maybe you're not 100% right.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And that is Dunning-Kruger in a nutshell. If the more you know, about a subject, the less you think you know. I think that's the answer. Whereas the less you know about a subject, the more you think you're an expert. Can we leave off on this, because I've been wanting to ask you this, and it's a throwback to like way. I'm going back to the Lord of the Rings, a little LOTR. So the Valar, I didn't think could create things. I thought that in Morgoth created. He's a Maya, or is he a Valar?
He's a Maiar. He's a Maiar. No. Morgoth is a Valar.
He's a Valar. So
yeah, his name is Melkor, and Melkor. The Dark Lord. Morgoth is the Elven word for Dark Lord.
Right. And so he created dragons and orcs.
He did not create orcs.
He didn't create life, but he modified it.
He modified elves. He tortured and twisted them into orcs.
Right.
The first orcs. For dragons, I don't know if Morgoth created them or not. I can't remember.
Or they're like Balrogs. The dragons.
No, Balrogs are also Maya.
Yeah, Maya. But I think dragons are Maya, maybe.
They might be. If they are, then I don't know. I don't think so. I think
one less than Maya.
So Maya are spiritual beings.
Yeah.
Like Gandalf and all those guys. The Ishtari. They are they're spiritual beings. They're essentially sub-angel. And Sauron is a Maiar.
Yeah.
Right? The Balrogs are Maya. They're just lesser beings that follow Melkor. Melkor is the strongest Valar.
Yeah, so Maya, as they go, Gandalf is a Maya. He's not a Valar.
No, he's not a Valar. So I'm not 100% sure if Gandalf is technically a Maiar.
Yeah, I think he is a Maya.
There's two different kinds. And I can't remember the other name for it, but he might be. He's lesser than Sauron.
Do you have any last thoughts? How do you think mediums did in The Lord of the Rings?
Mediums are like a thing. They're a thing. Yeah.
Who was a soothsayer in The Lord of the Rings? Gandalf wasn't he? He could kind of see the future. Like that was his.
I don't know if he can see the future. He has portents. Galadriel can see the.
Right. I think he could kind of see a string where it could work.
Arwen can see the future.
Who?
Elrond can see the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the elves can do that. Yeah. I don't know if Gandalf ever soothsays.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
that
was his plan. Send Bilbo into the mountain.
He doesn't soothsay.
Yeah.
He has a plan. He can feel the darkness coming, but he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas Galadriel literally is like, I have foreseen this coming. And Elrond and Arwen literally has a vision of her future son. Mm-hmm. A possible future, which is what allows her to make the decision to stay in Middle-earth.
Well, any last thoughts on Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings is cool. Claudia, I think, was an interesting, new kind of guest. Interesting. I wish that we'd gotten a little bit. I wish that we could have talked to her about what we just talked about and actually kind of pushed back a little. But I don't think that she was necessarily here for that. It was really interesting getting her perspective. And she was a fun guest.
Nice.
I would like to know more about her practice and what she does.
I'm looking at the guy that's at the front of my house right now. That's kind of being a medium. Like there's a guy out there. Oh, he left. Yeah. I didn't want to talk to him anyway. I almost said something, but I didn't.
Forget it.
And I can talk to him. Yeah. Can't talk now. I'm podding. I'm pod peopling. Pod people.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
Nope.
All right. Well,
Next Thursday.
that's it. Thanks for tuning in this week to the Geeky Gamer Podcast, featuring Claudia Monacelli. Claudia Monacelli. Her accent, she didn't have a thick Italian accent, so I think she's. I think
she's like second or third generation.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought she was great. I feel like I learned some. Geeky Gamer Podcast happens every Thursday with Ken and Bill, all lowercase letters, and Mr. Interrupt bring the score, as well as Catchfire Media does some art media production, and Trois Reblay Productions does, he sets stuff on fire. Yep.
Fun stuff.
Fun stuff. Tune in next week where we'll have another guest that we'll do Discord things with, and it'll be fun.
And they'll get mad. We'll get mad. Everyone will get mad.
Bye.
Bye.